Okay, so since everybody, well, not everybody, but since a lot of people asked how I did my handles, my new, well, not my new way, but that's my new way, but it's not a new way. So basically start with a cylinder of clay that I just rolled out, and what I'm going to do is kind of tap the ends so they're kind of heavier on each end. Then I'm going to stretch them out. I've heard this referred to as the dog bone method. Then I'm going to determine which end is going to attach to the piece first, and then I'm going to take my hand and kind of wrap it around that end like this. Then I'm going to tap that to spread it out, and kind of rotate it in my hand. Since the inside of my hand isn't perfect, I don't want to leave it with one end that's thicker than the other, so kind of rotate it as I go. And then I'm going to squeeze it gently like this, and then kind of spread it out a little bit. And it's going to do this, so I'm actually going to make it almost like a suction cup, like that. And then I'm going to determine which side of the bottom is going to attach, and the top part of that I'm going to spread out a little bit. I'm going to just take my finger and flatten it a little bit, like that. Then I'm going to take my mug that I'm going to attach it to. It's kind of a standard shape. This is thrown finished, so I don't need to trim it. I'm going to give the bottom a little bit of a roll on the work surface to deal with any sharp edges. And then I'm going to figure out where I'm going to put my handle. And in this case, since I always end up putting a gouge somewhere in my piece, I'm going to put it right there so I can cover up my mistake. So I'm just going to figure out how far down I want to attach this. So I'm going to do a little bit of a store there, and then at the bottom, which is where I'm going to attach the handle, just going to do that, and I'm going to score. I actually have found that I didn't need to score the handle itself, because I do this with the clay wet. I actually don't let the clay sit before I attach it, so I haven't really had a problem with the handle not sticking. But so I'm going to take this, I'm going to attach it right there, and I'm going to give a little bit of a wiggle, push it into the piece. Piece is fairly stiff. It's not too soft. So I'm just going to attach it like that, and I'm going to grab a sponge since I forgot to grab one. A little bit of water, and now I'm going to just start pulling out the handle. So I'm pulling it from the piece I mean, this is no different from the general way you would attach a handle. Go ahead and work on the attachment before I finish pulling the full handle. Okay. And then just keep pulling. The width of your initial coil of clay is going to determine how wide your handle is going to be, but you can pull down here just to thin it out if you need to. And you can also make any changes you want to the connection while you're doing this. And then you can bring it around just to test it to see if you got what you want. I'm actually going to make this a little bit thinner. When you do that, be really, really careful that you don't flex it too much, because if you do, you can introduce a little break in the clay, which might not show up until it dries, which is a real pain in the ass. So let's go ahead and do that now. Make sure you adjust the curve before you get too crazy with it. And I'm just going to apply a little light pressure on the connection point before I make some adjustments on the handle. Now I'm gonna put a little pressure on here for the attachment. And what I've started doing, because again this is kind of new for me, is I'm introducing a little bit of a peak in there, which I'm going to come around and use my finger to give it a little bit of a curl upwards, like that. And then the same thing on this side. So you can kind of see just a little tiny variation there. And then you can make any changes here, and I actually am going to do the same thing down here. A little bit of a detail on the handle there. In my other pieces I had a line that this actually continued around, but these are different mugs. So just kind of make sure that this is going in the right direction. And since this is coming down, I'm just going to take this and let it hang like that. And then set that out to dry. And hopefully that one works. I'm going to make a couple more. Okay, here's variation number 2. Pretty much similar to the first one, except added a little ridge down what's going to be the inside. So, same basic idea, but a little bit of a change to the initial cylinder form. Again, attaching it to the mug. Sorry, I keep stepping out of camera. This one's a little bit another different mug form. This one is actually a lot more free form, so I'm gonna see what I can do different with the handle. I don't think it has to be the same. And actually put it on at a slight angle, so that's going to be fun. Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm just going to go ahead and attach it. The slip that I have on the handle is enough to hold it on. I don't need to score it or do anything else. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to do the little lip on the end. Do the same thing at the bottom. A bit more curve. Little line down the inside. I mean, a lot of these techniques have been around for ages. You just kind of add little flourishes that make them your own. Unless somebody else did it first, and then they're not really your own. You're just rediscovering shit again. Which is, 90% of pottery. Not a lot of flags left to plant. Also, I apologize if you see the sweat pouring down my face. The studio's a little warm. There we go. So, that's kind of cool. Anyway, any more questions, just let me know. Thanks.